Awesome. So welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to this talk on public speaking in this little crash course. Just to get us started, we don't need to use the chat feature, but I thought maybe you might like to share what is your biggest fear when it comes to public speaking? Are you afraid of public speaking? I make the assumption, but maybe you're not.
I'm not really. I mean, I think anytime you do public speaking, there's always just a little bit of anxiety, even if you're comfortable with it. Just, you want to be well received. But my dad introduced me and my brothers to public speaking at a very young age. I was in speech and debate for 3 years of high school. When I was an adult, I went to a conference in Kentucky 2 years in a row. It was a gathering of 16 to 28-year-old Christians who were looking into being pastors or priests, depending on the denomination, and we all gave sermons in front of each other. And it's a big conference. There were like 800 people there. So I actually have 2 sermons that were published in that, and I've done a couple of other things like that. So public speaking, I'm a pretty comfortable person with it. It's kind of been something I've done my whole life.
Awesome. That's great. And what about you, Allison? Are you afraid of public speaking, or you feel?
No, I was raised similar. My mom was in politics, and I did speech and debate and did Toastmasters and did all that. And I'm not afraid of it. The other day I listened back on a recording and heard my voice, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what I sounded like.
Rookie move. Never do that. Never do that. I hate listening to recordings of myself.
Well, I am so pleased to have 2 people here that have the kind of experience that you do. It's actually very rare to get people on this chat that actually have kind of walked the walk and talk the talk, what it means to come to public speaking. And a lot of times people say, well, I'm afraid I'm going to get tongue-tied, or I'm afraid I'm going to lose my place. People are going to stare at me. What if I fall or trip, or any of those things that make people afraid to speak in front of other people? And it's interesting. I was a theater major in college, and you would think a theater kid would feel totally comfortable with public speaking, but it's actually the opposite. Because when you're in theater, you're playing a character, you're someone else. You're not yourself being on stage talking to a group of people. So I hope to dispel some of the fears that people might have over the next few minutes and give you a reason why we're going to have this conversation. So when you go to college, I mentioned this in the very first live event, you have to take a comm course. And if you're not taking something like interpersonal or COM 100, which is a survey course that's offered that covers all of the different spots of human communication, you would take public speaking. And so one of the reasons I want to offer this course is because a lot of you are going to be going into fields where you're going to do some amount of public speaking, whether it's just talking to a client and having to sell yourself for the first time, or if you're a paralegal, you're interacting with the clients and the attorneys. So there's different communication styles you're going to be using. And in this course, at the very end, you have that little video diary. So I thought, well, goodness, if some colleges make you take an entire 8 to 12 week course on public speaking, I can probably squeeze in 30 minutes and give you the core. And in fact, for Allison and Ben, this is probably not going to be anything new for you. Maybe you'll see something new, but if not, feel free to chime in and help teach this right along with me, okay? So, hi, Lamont, nice to see you.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad that you're here. We're just getting started. So let's talk about first this idea of warming up when you speak publicly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you from beginning to end of public speaking in the actual mode of public speaking. So let's say you're asked to speak somewhere and you arrive and you're super nervous. Well, there are warm-ups that you can actually do that are going to help you decrease some of those nerves and expend some of that energy. So maybe you're thinking something like this. When you think of warm-ups, I want you to go get out your 1980s headgear and your weights and go rock it out like they did in Flashdance. And while for some of you that might work, for others of you, you're like, yeah, I think I'll leave the leotard at home, Kim. And that's okay. So no leotard. Let's just talk about your personal body. We're going to talk about breathing, and we're going to talk about the face and the body. So first of all, I want to tell you, in order to do warm-ups, think about the location that you're going to do them in. So the bathroom or the car is your very best friend when it comes to warming yourself up to speak publicly or to go for an interview. So these are both private places. So just tuck that in the back of your mind. These are places you can go to expend that energy. You can close a stall, you can close your car door, you can put up your sunshades. Nobody has to know. So the first thing I want to tell you is to breathe. When we're nervous, our breath gets really shallow and you can go into hyperventilating pretty quickly. So just taking in those deep breaths and letting your diaphragm fill up and then exhaling, letting that out, doing that several times will be helpful just to calm your body down. Now, when I talk about filling up your diaphragm, I'm not talking about lifting your chest. So this is still shallow breathing. If when I'm breathing, it's my chest and my shoulders that are lifting. What I'm talking about is feeling your abdomen expand. Are any of you fitness people that are in here? Okay, so at least one. Okay, so you know what the diaphragm is. So if you put your hand on your belly and you take a deep breath, you should feel your belly go out. So just keep going until I can't go anymore. And then when you blow out, that is all going to push back in. So doing that maybe 10 times, trying to hold your breath for increasingly long periods of time, like breathe in, hold for 3, breathe out. Breathe in, hold for 5, breathe out as long as you possibly can. Just getting that air and that oxygen moving is going to do a lot for calming down not only your body, but calming down your mind. So that's breathing. And the next part I would think is your face. So did you know that your face is like one big muscle? Like all this through here is a muscle. And there are things that you can do with your face to get yourself prepared to speak. And some of those things are just like massaging your face. Sometimes if we get nervous or stressed, right, we feel it in our temples. We tend to bring our shoulders up and we want to relax all that. So you can massage your face, and it's okay to laugh at me because I am sure I'm going to look stupid in just a minute. You can also blow air out of your lips to get the saliva going so you don't get dry mouth. So it's just, these are called lip trills. Or my parents out there, they're raspberries. Do the same thing with your tongue, blow air out of your tongue. And then you can start to warm up your vocal cords so you can reach those various ranges by adding sound. And you can go up and down. And then you can go back up again. If you hit a break in your vocal cords, that's just your body's natural break in your tone. If you're an alto and it's hard to get to soprano, wherever you see that break is probably your top range, and vice versa. Finally, when it comes to the face, you can do tongue twisters. If you remember your elementary and preschool days, you can warm up that tongue so that you can articulate. You mentioned, Allison, hearing yourself on a recording whenever. I notice when I hear myself on a recording, I have a real tendency to slur some of the ends of my words and I don't completely articulate. And when I get like really enthusiastic about something, I grew up in Kentucky and I slip into Kentucky twang really fast. So doing those tongue twisters helps me articulate and try to keep whatever accent I'm working with that day in check. So one of my favorites is red leather, yellow leather. So let's try it together really slowly. You can mute yourself if you want to. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. And so you can feel those L's, your tongue start to warm up. Think about any of your other favorite ones. Peter Piper, Sally sold seashells by the seashore, but red leather, yellow leather, I like because it's really easy to remember. So we've talked about breath. We've talked about the face. Now, what about your body? So I think sometimes we get nervous because we care about what we're going to say. We care about what we're getting ready to do. And so again, think about nervousness translating into energy. My body has a lot of energy. I'm getting ready to do something big. I need to help my body work out that energy before I actually start speaking. So in your car or in the bathroom, basic shoulder rolls forward and back. Again, that's going to help release the tension that's in your neck where we hold things in our shoulders. Your hands, you can move your hands into fists in or out. You can roll your wrist. If you have the luxury of standing up, just standing up and letting your body sort of ragdoll down and just hold it and swing and roll up, doing arm swings, leg swings. I mean, anything you can do, jumping, just to sort of help your body to relax is a really good thing. So do you have any questions about warm-ups before I move on?
Questions though, but I did also find something that would help me when I'm warming up. I would often, whenever I was public speaking, I would always highlight in my speech or my sermon the parts I really wanted to emphasize, or the parts that I knew that vocally and with body language I really wanted to be impactful. So I would often stand in front of a mirror of some kind and deliver those parts, and I deliver them several times and kind of watch myself delivering them and try different ways of word emphasis and body language, like slamming my fist on the podium or gesticulating, and try to figure out what I thought best encapsulated that. Because one of the things we learn in communication is putting different emphasis on different words can change the meaning of an entire sentence. I forget the specific example, but I remember an exercise where there was one sentence and you could change the emphasis in any part of the sentence and that would completely change the perception of the sentence.
Yes.
And doing that with your speeches can be the same thing, and it can actually make or break the point you wanted to get across. Because if you emphasize the wrong word, then it can come across awkward. But if you emphasize the right word, then your meaning and your moment can be that much more powerful, is something I discovered.
That's true. That's a great point. And I think it's also worthwhile to consider when you're even just reading something out loud to someone. If you're reading something out loud to a client, if you're reading something out loud to your spouse or to your kid, the way that you phrase things and you put emphasis definitely enhances it. That's a great point. Thanks for sharing that. Did you find then when you did speak that you were able to reenact what it is that you wanted to do?
Yeah, for the most part, and it was because of practice. Like I said, I would try emphasizing different parts of these segments in my speech that I wanted to make sure came across strongly. I would play around, like I said, with word emphasis. I would play around with gesticulations and my tone. And when I found one that I was comfortable with, I would give it a couple of more times in that way, so that when it came to actually giving the full thing, it kind of was like second muscle memory for me. And once I discovered how I wanted to gesticulate and abbreviate or what have you, I would give the whole speech to myself or to somebody close to me or just to the mirror. And I would make sure that I incorporated those parts so that I knew exactly how I wanted to deliver the speech for what I perceived as the maximum effectiveness. At that point, it's really, it's like working any muscle. It's like singing the same song 100 times. You do it until it becomes second nature.
Right. That's great. That's very good. Thanks for sharing that. Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's move on. So now I'm going to give you a simple tool to help you quickly organize your thoughts if you don't have time to organize them, or if you do, you can use that as well. It's called the tell them adage. Have you heard of this? No? Tell them. Okay, cool. I'm gonna teach you something new. Yes. So maybe you'll be like, oh, I heard that in another way. And the reason I'm talking to them like that, Lamont, is we talked a little bit earlier, and Allison and Ben have had some really great public speaking experience. So that's why I'm cluing them in that way. So tell them means first, I'm going to tell my audience what I'm going to tell them. Then I'm going to tell them, and then I'm going to tell them what I told them. This is a great way to help you organize your thoughts and help your audience track with you. It works on the spur of the moment, but it also works if you've got time to prepare. So, for example, telling them what I'm going to tell them in other textbooks, that would be your preview. I'm going to preview for my audience what's coming so they know what to look for. So let's pretend I'm going to give a persuasive speech about this mouse. Okay, this is my beautiful red mouse. I use it every day. And today I want to tell you why it works so well. I want to tell you how I found it. And then I want to tell you why you should use it. And then I would go on in my speech and I would repeat those same phrases, but I would elaborate on them. This is how it works so well, and blah, blah, blah. This is why I love it. And as you can see, it does this and this and this. And this is why you should use it too, because I mean, really, the color is just stunning, isn't it? Everybody needs a red mouse. And then in the end, I would say, so today I've talked to you about these 3 things. And then I would repeat those things. And then the audience would have heard that at least 3 times, and it will help create memory points for them. And it will help give you moments of pause to transition between points. Remember where you've been and where you're going. So you can see why this, I hope, why this would work really well in an impromptu situation. Someone says, well, why should I hire your firm? Well, if you know your firm well enough, you should be able to come up with 2 or 3 points very easily. Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Here's 2 reasons why. You elaborate on them. So that's why I've just said you should do this because it's a great tracking device. So the tell them adage is you tell them what you're going to tell them. That's your preview. You tell them, that's your body. And then you tell them what you told them. That's your conclusion. So if you can remember those 3 points, it will help you organize your speaking material. Make sense? Okay, good. So let's talk about gestures. Gestures mean a lot. We've done a lot of talk about interpersonal communication and nonverbal communication in this course. So let's look at these 2 people. If we were going to give a guess about what's happening here, what do you think it would be?
She looks like she's laughing and he looks like he's like, what the hell?
Okay, good, because her mouth is open. She's like, oh, I didn't think of that. What's another interpretation?
I think specifically the reason I think she's laughing is because of the way that the silhouette looks. Like I can see her lip and her, like her teeth, the pointing gesture and like the lean back, the whole body language kind of looks like she's going like that, kind of like he dropped ketchup on his chest and like that's because I can see her lip and her teeth. That's why it looks, and he's just got his hand. What the hell's the matter with you?
Very good. Is there anything else we might interpret from this?
I could look at it 2 ways. I mean, I could see his way on it, but I could also, to me, like she just going off on him, and he like, okay, what did I do? So it's a plethora of ways I could look at this. But from what I'm seeing, it's like she could be laughing at him. She can be, but what I really see is like, why is she going off on him? Like, what did he do? Did he come home late? Did he not put the toilet seat down? This is a plethora of things that can be going on right now. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it really is, because that open mouth, it looks like a smile. Her shoulders look relaxed, but that pointed finger, I don't know about that pointed finger and the way his hands are out. So just those nonverbal gestures, we could infer so many things. I was sitting in line at Walgreens today, and I happened to look in my rearview mirror, and there was a couple behind me in their car having a very intense conversation. It took everything I had not just to watch the whole thing, because I'm pretty sure they were having a fight. You know, when you just see people having a fight, you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Don't look, don't look, don't look. But I'm like, so gestures really mean something and they catch people's attention. So what if when you're speaking to someone, what are the best gestures to use? So I'm sure you've heard we probably shouldn't cross our arms because that makes us look super closed off. Looking down makes you look shy and not confident. Sticking both your hands in your pockets. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about that because I think sticking your hands in your pocket sometimes can make you look, what's the word I'm looking for? A little just relaxed, like too relaxed, but sometimes
Casual.
you might want to seem a little relaxed. So maybe one hand in your pocket is okay while you're using other gestures. By and large, the more open you are, the more confident that you're going to seem. So I'm sure you've heard fake it till you make it. If you're totally freaked out when you're having to speak to someone, keep your body language open as much as you can. It's also going to aid to developing an open and supportive climate. Something else I've talked about, one more time.
So, I mean, that's true because I, as a barber, I have to do that a lot. Like you're intimate with your clients basically. So it's like your communication skills, the way you seem, it could be, if you're open, you're more welcoming than with your hands in your pocket or your hands crossed. You're right. You kind of stand off. So that's a good observation.
Good, thank you.
There's a guy who did a seminar on YouTube. His name is Mark Gungner. It's G-U-N-G, I think it's just G-O-R. He had this whole seminar called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage and had all these talks about men and women and how we think about different things. But he's extremely gesticulative. And it's a really good watch if you want to be better at communicating in any relationship, but specifically like a romantic relationship. But if you also just want to watch it for how he gesticulates, he changes his gesticulations depending and his motions depending on what he's saying. Like I noticed watching him when he's trying to get a statement that he wants to feel is very matter of fact, like men and women are different. He has a hand in his pocket. That casualness makes his tone feel more like this is something everybody knows. This isn't a professional statement I'm making. By having his hands in his pocket and having that relaxed atmosphere, making that statement, he's making it seem more like everybody already knows this. We're just talking about it really quickly. And then when he's getting more excited and he's talking about things that get chaotic, he's waving his hands and he's being, a little more crazy. And he goes through a lot of different things. But if you really just watch his gesticulations, you can see that he's not just talking and using gesticulations to emphasize his point. He's using specific gesticulations and motions and body language to convey ideas, like crossing his arms when he wants to talk about a partner closing themselves off from their husband. When he's talking and explaining that, he has his arms crossed because it helps to emphasize how closed off that makes you feel. And that, even though there are things you don't want to do in public speaking, you can use those do nots in your public speaking to emphasize very specific points. And then when you're done with them, go back to, your regular tone. It can really help bring out that part of your speech.
I think so too. And I think another thing to consider is when you have something important that you want to say and you feel passionate about it, we can get stuck in where we're standing and the way we're speaking, and using those gestures helps to expand that energy and helps to elaborate further on the verbals. But also I want to touch just a little bit on big room speaking. So it's highly unlikely at this point in your careers that any of you is going to have to speak maybe in front of a convention, but like in a room of 100 people. If you ever do find yourself doing podium speaking, I want to encourage you to get out from behind the podium as much as possible because the podium blocks you. But also if you find that you are swaying a lot or you're moving a lot or like you're trying to get back here so you can see my face, but like if you're crossing your legs, that sort of thing, try to focus your energy by actually moving. So you could give like your first point facing your audience, go to your first point, walk to this corner of the room, stand there a little bit. Oh, I feel like I need to sway again. So I'm going to walk back to the center of the room to deliver my next point. And then you can make your way over to the next corner and then back over to the center. Just the simple act of moving and walking helps you expend that nervous energy, but it also gives your audience something to look at. A listening audience has about an 18-minute block. So people tend to be able to listen intently for about 18 minutes before they start to tune you out. So doing those things like remember your tell them adage and saying the same thing over and over again, or signposting with first, second, third. If someone has zoned out, it helps reel them back in. And the same thing is true with movement. What I'd like to conclude with is just a gentle reminder that we get really nervous sometimes about public speaking. But I think it's also important to remember at this stage in your career is that if someone is asking you to speak on a topic, it's because you have knowledge that they want to know. At this point, I think it's unlikely that you are going to be asked to talk about something that you don't understand, right? So by being asked to do something, you have legitimate power, you have expert power, you probably have referent power because there's probably something about you that they like and they want to know. So I think I want you to understand that don't get tied up and worried about having a manuscript or trying to be perfect or what they're going to be thinking of you as an individual. More than anything, if you're asked to speak somewhere or you're asked to give a presentation, it's because you have something and they want it. So just let those words and let your expertise flow. And I'm certain that you'll do very well. So that's it. Do you all have any questions at all about this and how it's going to go?
So is it a video we're doing basically?
Okay, yeah. So this was just a crash course in public speaking just to cover the overall element. At the end of the course, you have a reflection, which is like a diary sort of. You have to answer 3 questions. I'm not grading you at all on your skill level. I'm just grading you on your ability to answer those questions. Just like when I read your work, I'm not looking for you to have amazing writing, although many of you do. I'm looking to see if you understand the concepts and you can apply them. So the last one is 3 questions. It's like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? What 3 skills mean the most to you? And there's a third question. So you just get to answer those questions. And if you want to try out some of these techniques, you're welcome to, but you certainly don't have to. So that's the very last assignment. And then I'm trying to think, I would like to tell you just a little bit about Allison's already done the assignment, but the assignment coming up this week is assignment 4. So just a heads up for everybody who's going to listen and watch. This is the assignment on friendship. And you're just writing about 3 different seasons in life, what it would look like to maintain friendships in particular context. Make sure you open that study guide because it has a list of all the concepts you could use. Make sure you're using those concepts and applying those concepts. Specific examples are great, but I can't tell a lot of times from specific examples what concept you're intending to apply. So make sure you use those concepts. After that, you have your interview assignment. And that one, I will also give you a heads up about that as we get closer, but don't let that assignment sneak up on you. You have to do 2 interviews, same questions, 2 different people, and then you have to analyze your responses according to concepts from the course. Did you see that little hand? So is it bedtime yet? I mean, come on. So so that's assignment 5, and then you have your reflection. So we are just rolling right into the end of this course. You guys have done great. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I just be trying not to miss class.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate you being here. So that's all I have for tonight. I'll hang out if you have any more questions, but otherwise you're free to go. I hope Mina feels better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye, guys.